Oh, Jesus. Here we are again, our spiritual, religious podcast of Christianity and other religions. Jak, Bee Lion, here once again to talk things out. Little bit of comedy, a little bit of insight. Two guys who are not really religious. I wouldn't say exploring religion, more of just trying to understand religion. Why is it such a big part of people's lives? And I thought about this a while ago, many years ago. I remember, I think my mom said to me, every once in a while she'll say, you gotta have kids. I don't know why. She's already a grandmother. My sister has kids. But she's like, what's that?
She's pressuring you?
No, she doesn't pressure me, but every once in a while she'll say, you should have kids someday or something. And I'm thinking, life's just, to me, all about pain and stress. Like, there's not many happy moments I can think of in my life. Like, happiness is only like a little sprinkle here and there. And I know some people say that, their happiest moment in life is when their child's born. So maybe that's something that I guess you won't understand until you're in that moment. When you see your girlfriend's slit being wide open by this baby. But I was thinking, like, it just seems like life is just a lot of stress and agony and sadness and pain, and it's like, why bring more people into this shit?
That's interesting. So, did you tell your mom, first of all, that you've given up on sex? So, can't exactly make a child. That was just a reference to the other podcast.
Yes.
But I'm curious, so, do you think that religious people are, in general, tend to be happier people because of religion, or do they seem not to be in your encounters?
Well, if they're not happy, if they're pretending they're happier, they seem like it because they're always like, fucking saying, I have God in my life, and people use God even when they argue with other people. Like, I got God on my side, and God's with me, and you need God. So I guess if they're not, then they're obviously pretending. Maybe that's what they think that God wants or life is supposed to be. It's like, I got God, I got God, motherfucker. I don't think God would approve you bragging about him like that, like, oh, I got God and you don't. I thought we all had God, whether you wanted him or not.
Yeah, that's that whole, what would Jesus do? And, you see, if you really ask that question and you went by the interpretation of Jesus being sort of this free-spirited philosopher, a lot of the stuff that people do is not things Jesus would do. When I see somebody who doesn't have their shit together, who's religious, I think, well, what would you be like without religion? Would you be just like a monster? Or would you be happier? And there's no way to know, right? Like, yeah. I was thinking about this whole 12-step thing, and, addiction, the 12 steps of recovering from addiction, and one of the steps is about, well, the whole program is sort of about having God in your life, and they say higher power, but really, for the most part, I think they mean God, and it's like, I struggle with that whole idea, and I don't know if it's possible to do it without that, but also don't know if you could talk yourself into being religious. Do you think that you could talk yourself into being religious?
No. I mean, it's gone so much. It's like weed, I've gone so much of my life without it. Why start now?
Do you think weed would be the gateway drug to religion?
It could be. I mean, I could maybe meet somebody who's religious and use them for their weed and then get high and just, talk about religion. Somebody who needs their problems and stuff. That could be a gateway. That could be the gateway gate to heaven.
Oh, I like that. That's very good.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of, did you have more to say on the topic of life being generally unhappy and bringing a kid into this world?
No, I was just going to say that, well, because nobody knows the meaning of life, but it seems like the meaning of life is to have kids, in the sense that, to keep life going on this planet, we need to keep procreating and multiply. But we already have done that. Like I said, like I what the funny thing is, to my parents every once in a while, because I live with my parents, I'm a loser, and I'll be in the car with them. And once again, my mom would bring it up once in a while. She goes, make me some grandbabies or something like that, or something. And then I'll say, it says in the Bible that God's against you having children because, it's a sin to have kids. And my mom's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Where'd you read that shit at? I'm like, well, it says in the Bible that, it's a sin to have kids, because if you have kids, they're going to die someday. So you're pretty much bringing kids in this world to die. And she's like, what kind of Jehovah fucking nigger shit are you reading? You hanging out with those fucking Muslims. It does not say that in there. I was like, well, you don't go to church and stuff like that. And she's like, I don't need to go to church to believe in God. I was like, yeah, but everybody else, why is everybody else there? And my mom acts like...
pull a fake religious quote out.
Yeah. But it was up to me. I would try to convince people to not have kids. I would say that. I would go, your kids are going to die someday. Why would you bring them into this world to die? Isn't that wrong? I mean, Does
that tend to stop people from wanting kids?
No, I mean, I think people are going to have kids. And it seems like nowadays, most people have kids by accident. It's not like the old days where people talk it out and go, hey, let's make a baby. It seems like it's just more, most people don't use protection, and then the chick gets knocked up, and some people are like, oh, I'm against abortion, so let's keep it, whatever, and they just go, okay, fuck it, and then just have kids. It's not like it's this planned thing where it's like, yeah, let's make a baby together, let's do this. It's like an accident these days.
Now, in terms of abortion, do you think everybody should get an abortion?
I mean, I don't think it should be. I mean, I know religion says that you shouldn't. Religious people say, they always use rape, as an example. They say, what happens if the woman gets raped? It doesn't matter. It's not the baby's fault. That's what they say. They go, it's not the baby's fault that the baby's father was a rapist and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it should be pro-choice. It's like, why not? I mean, especially if you don't want to take care of the thing. I think that's my theory of why people lock their kids in a hot car. They probably just said, fuck this, I had enough of this shit. I'm gonna go shopping, leave this fucking thing in the car for a little while, and come back and see an abortion omelet.
Yeah, it's so true. I wonder if anybody's ever brought that up. Like, okay, is it better to get rid of the child or raise a kid terribly and make the kid suffer, and then maybe eventually the kid dies? Like, I would love to hear the rational or the religious response to that.
And also, I feel bad. Like, I see junkies and they have kids, and it's a shame. Like, they're on crack or something, and then they have these skinny little crack babies, and it's just sad. It's like, they're already bringing a kid into the world who's going to be sick and going to be probably screwed up and probably either homeless or probably in the street or probably mental illness. It's like, a lot of people shouldn't have kids, it's just... And then there's people out there, it's a sick joke of life that some people out there who want to have kids who will be good parents, they don't have the woman can't make kids because she has bad eggs, or the husband maybe has lazy swimmers, and then these people who are poor, these people who are fucked up, they can make the kids, and then they bring these fucking, like I said, crack babies or whatever into this world, and it's weird how that happens.
Yeah. You ever watch that movie, Idiocracy?
Is that with Luke Wilson?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like where all the stupid people are breeding and all the smart people are holding off on having children.
Yeah. It definitely
kind
seems.
of makes me think of that.
It definitely seems like that, and then when you have a baby, it seems like you got to pick a religion for it. Like you got to, is it going to be, Catholic? It's going to be Christian. What is it going to be? You don't hear people say these days, "I'm going to have an atheist baby."
Yeah, it's so weird because if you think about it, imagine if you raised a kid and said, I am going to make it so that my kid's favorite type of music is country music. And it's like, you're not picking that, but so it's just by default what you're going to live your life as. It doesn't make any sense. And that's why I feel like good and bad things about, what is it called, Born Again. It's like, on the one hand, you screwed up your whole life, and that's why you're turning to religion. On the other hand, you're picking something later on that you weren't born with, so it's more authentic. I don't know. But I think that, did you hear about Stephen Baldwin? I just found out about this yesterday. Stephen Baldwin, travels the world to teach people religion through skateboarding.
No.
Yeah, it's he has a film called Livin' It, and he at first I thought it was like a skateboarding religion, but it says let me see if it's 700 Club's website. Extremes. Fuck it. All right, I can't really.
Extreme religion. Like
it says extreme for Jesus.
You have to put on a helmet and shit, before you dive in.
Yeah,
I imagine him. I can't do his voice being like, "Okay, kids, make sure you put on your helmet because safety's first before we talk about God," or something like that.
And then if a kid dies, he's like, "It's okay. He's getting closer to God."
Yeah. Yeah. Did you say once on this show that you wanted to explore other religions and stuff? Have you checked out any other religions?
So, at one point, I was looking into, Taoism? I think that's what it's called. And it's very strange. It's kind of like Buddhism, but it's a little different. I just want to read, you know what? I want to read a little part of you ever heard of the Tao Te Ching?
No.
So it's their religious book. It's like their version of the Bible or the Quran. That's their book. I don't know if this is because it's translated, but the things that they say in the book are kind of confusing. So I just want to read a little bit of it.
Okay.
It says, "A good runner leaves no tracks. A good speaker makes no slips. A good planner doesn't have to scheme. The best lock has no bolt, and no one can open it. The best knot uses no rope, and no one can untie it. Thus the master is always good at saving people and doesn't abandon anyone. Always good at conserving things and doesn't waste anything. This is known as following the light." Actually, the second part kind of makes sense, but the whole thing about the best lock has no bolt, but no one can open it, and the best knot uses no rope, and no one can untie it. Does that make any sense?
It could be about suicide. It sounds like a riddle.
Well, you know what? That's kind of what Zen, like that, what is it? What's the sound of one hand clapping, and if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Those are Zen koans, and they're kind of like riddles. So I guess this is sort of similar. But, one of the interesting things about Taoism is I don't know if it's like a rule, but one of the things they recommend for you to practice is not masturbating. And they believe that it conserves your life force energy. So basically, you're supposed to do the tantric thing.
Ah.
And, yeah. So you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like actually a whole diagram of like if you're this old, then you should wait this long between uh, orgasms.
Wow.
And I guess if you're older, you're supposed to do it less often. It's very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, I saw a video about the Nofap thing a while ago, and they showed successful people who don't jerk off.
Really?
I forgot one of the boxers who didn't do it. It was some famous boxer. He would never jerk off 30 days before a fight because he believed that it was just jerk off or have sex because it would.
More aggressive?
I think it was just more about energy. It just made him more. It's supposed to build up more testosterone and have more energy, stuff like that.
Does that seem legit?
I mean, it could be, like I said. I mean, I've done research about the whole no fap thing and stuff, and the PUA thing. It's supposed to motivate you to get laid because you get so horny and you go 30 days without and stuff. And I've done it before. I made it 5 months and 3 weeks without masturbating many years ago, and it was cool to do it. I could have went the whole year. I should have not stopped. It's cool to do that, but it got to the point where I didn't feel like a person anymore. Like I felt I had no genitalia. Like I wasn't getting boners anymore.
Wait, you weren't? I would think that they would be way more, like, way stronger. Happen way more frequently.
No, because like you control your sexual energy. So what that means is like you only get horny certain days, and certain days you don't feel horny at all. And it was fine, but it just got to a point. I was like, all right, I've done this, and and I should have kept going. I should have went a whole year, but yeah, it's all right.
So you're saying that like your drive actually goes away? You don't think about it?
No, you still think about it. It's just more of you don't. Like I said, some days you feel like you get these random boners and stuff, and then some days like they describe it as the blue balls feeling, like you feel like one of your nuts get real swollen, and it's not extremely painful, but it's like a tension. You feel it in your nuts, like I gotta get laid. And then there's some days where it's the opposite, and you feel nothing down there at all. It feels like you jerked off already, like you just feel like empty down there. So it's like that over and over. And I remember one time when I was doing this many years ago. I remember I had 2 or 3 weeks without jerking off or coming or whatever, and I was in this. I felt fine. I was in this bar, and this is back when I used to approach girls, and I tried to talk to this girl, and she like just rubbed her ass on my dick just to tease me. And then she moved away, and my balls hurt it, and they swell up. And I remember I put my head on the bar, and I was like, "Oh!" And I couldn't even walk. I was walking down the street, and people were like laughing at me. It looked like I was like handicapped.
Because you were in so much pain.
Yeah, because it was just so like my balls were scraping against my leg. I had a rash when I got home. They were so filled, and it just hurt. So some days,
wait for it to go away.
Well, I think that night I actually made it through the night. I mean, it was hard, but I just didn't beat off. I just kind of just rubbed my balls, and just went to sleep. It's amazing the self-control. I mean, every guy thinks they can't do it, but everybody can do it if they want. It's just more of, we just have this need, like, oh, I don't want to. It just feels like it's just like let that poison out, like why hold that poison in?
So my question is, okay, so some people are successful because they don't masturbate. Aren't there way more successful people that do?
Yeah, but I think it's more of that video was trying to say that there's benefits to it. Like, it's just about focus, I guess, instead of focus. Like, there was an episode of Seinfeld, I don't know if you've seen it, where George stops having sex and masturbating, and he gets really smart. And he's always like the scientist, and then he has sex again, and he becomes dumb. And then Elaine, when she stops having sex, she gets dumb, and she feels like she needs sex to be smart or something. That's what it's like to be a woman. So it's more like it's just about focus, I guess. Like it's something. I don't know. I mean, I think
Does that seem legitimate? Is there any truth to what they were portraying?
I mean, it had to be based on something, but it's just it's probably more about just focus. It's like if you focus on nothing but just sex and your energy and you're beating off all day, like they say porn desensitizes you if you watch, it's true for me, if you watch too much porn, you start to get like, well, only for speak for myself, like a little bit upset, because you're like, damn, I don't, especially if you don't get laid, you're like, oh, and then you're watching, everything's unrealistic, from the blowjobs to the wild sex to how easy the sex happens, and then you start to think that that's how it is, and it really isn't. And then when you go out to meet girls, you expect that to happen like that, and it doesn't. So I don't know if it makes you successful, but I think it's just more about I think there's benefits to it as far as like it doesn't hurt to try it. And if you're a single guy, it's like, it's not, your dick's not gonna fall off or anything. It's like, just try it, Try to go 30 days or 15 days. What's that?
So apparently I'm reading here, it's on the Taoist subreddit. It says, somebody said, I heard from practicing that after 60 days of no ejaculation, your body begins to adjust and it becomes somewhat easier and you become slightly asexual. Does that sound true based on your experience? Have you ever gone 60 days?
Yeah, I told you I made it 5 months and 3 weeks.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem with like listening and trying to pull up this thing here. Apparently, people get really frustrated on this subreddit because people several times a week on the Taoism page are asking about the masturbation thing. They're like, it's like the number one question people seem to have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to learn more about the religion and maybe get back to you about it. I also have this book about Judaism, which is actually a book from my mom, but she's Catholic, so I don't know. It's kind of strange.
Well, I will say, I mean, as far as the no beating off thing goes, only one good thing about it is you do feel more rested when you go when you're like your third or fourth day in. Even if you only get a few hours of sleep, you feel like if you come and you get 6 hours of sleep, you feel more tired than if you get, let's say, 4 hours of sleep or 3 hours of sleep. If you've been a few days in without ejaculating, you definitely feel like you have more energy and stuff like that. So it definitely feels better as far as rest goes.
Wow, that's interesting. So do you think that's why there's a lot of spiritual so-called people who are very touchy-feely because they're trying to get that energy out somehow without it being sexual?
I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, I don't know what it's like to be spiritual, so I don't know.
Speaking of just the whole sexual thing and religion, do you think it's wrong for a yoga teacher to say fake spiritual things to get laid?
By who? I mean, from who?
A yoga teacher to say that to their, what would you call them? Their students.
I don't. But how can I get them laid though? By saying something.
I've heard it happens. Like, I feel like there's this connection from our past life, and the Kundalini is rising. How about we have a one-on-one session sometime? Things like that.
I mean, if it works, I don't see how it's wrong. I mean, if the person wants to bang them, then I guess it worked.
I gotta look into this other thing, by the way, about apparently in Saudi Arabia, they're saying that Bitcoin is against the rules of Islam.
Wow.
It seems very strange that they would have a rule about Islam or about Bitcoin in a text from thousands of years ago.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything. Do you have anything else for this episode?
I gotta get a clip of this maybe for next week. There's this church reverend who snorts coke and watches porn and smokes crack, and I'm thinking,
nice.
It's pretty cool guy. Like more about him. So yeah, that's about all I have for this week for the religion podcast. Oh Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You can check us out, iTunes. Let me see. Possibly Google Play, Pocket Casts, and soon to be more. This is Giving Up. I'm sorry, I almost said Giving Up on Sex.
Giving Up on Jesus?
This is Oh Jesus with Josh, Jak, and Bee Lion. Email us at tlndshow@outlook.com and tell us what your religion is. And do you believe or do you not believe? And have you ever lied to one of your yoga students? Please let us know. This has been Oh Jesus. Oh Jesus. Oh Jesus. Oh Jesus.